I'm really liking the video camera in my laptop here, right? So once again, we're on to our Promenade railing project. Now, I need to caveat all of this in the very beginning of the video because I cover it at the end, but I'm going to cover it at the beginning. This is a post edit, right? So I reached out to Promenade, the railing manufacturer. I sent them some detailed pictures. I didn't send them any video. Hopefully, they're going to find these, so maybe they can see some of my frustration. And they're going to make it right. They're going to send me all the parts that I need at no cost. When I sent the pictures to show them what was going on, they acknowledged that there was definitely something a little bit funky with my setup, right? So there we go. Again, just a real shout out to Promenade because every problem I've had, they have immediately addressed it. I sent an email at 7 a.m. Monday morning, and by 8:30, because they don't open till 8, by 8:30 I had an answer. So that was fantastic, and I've got no issues with the railing company. I really don't. I mean, I mentioned it in the video, but I'm going to mention it again. Engineers have a tendency to operate in a vacuum. Um, yeah, I worked in the automotive industry my entire life, and every single day I dealt with something that was obviously seemed like it was a good idea on paper. And then when it was used in practice, yeah, no, that's bullshit. That's like putting a starter underneath an intake manifold. You're protecting it from the weather, but if it goes bad, it's a 6-hour process to repair it. And it's like using nylon for timing chain guides. Yeah, in ideal situations, a nylon timing chain guide theoretically should last 150,000 miles, not taking into consideration people beat their cars like rented mules and they fail in 50,000 miles, and stuff like that. So watch the rest of the video. I know it's a long one. I'm done trying to cut these down into any kind of 14-minute. Oh, this is what happened. Nah, I really think everybody enjoys seeing me fight with the most simplest of things. Hey kids, welcome back to Uncle Fezzi's Mad Lab, or as I like to say, Failure Central, right? So, the railing project ended abruptly in the last video because management came out. Management doesn't like to be on camera, and I had to explain to management exactly what was going on. And quite frankly, at the time, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know. Why is nothing fitting, right? Everything fits together on the bench. Actually, in the very beginning of the video, I say I put everything up and everything seemed like it fit. And nothing fit at all, actually. And there's a couple reasons, there's a couple things that I think are the problem. And I don't know. Because this is a piss poor fucking design for... It's a piss poor design. And it's not even so much that it's a piss poor design, because if you... on paper, right, everything works, because on paper everything always works. Well, reality in practice, I'm having a hell of a time. Now, in the earlier video, I discussed about how I got a laser out and I shot a laser up the stairs. I did that. And when I shot the laser up the stairs, all of the, I know I'm repeating myself here, all of the anchors are in a perfectly straight line up the thing. Now, they might not be parallel, but they're all perfectly parallel. They might not be straight, like it might be cocked a little to the right or to the left, but the truth of the matter is you put a laser on the bottom one, you put a laser on the top one, the laser line goes all the way through all of them, right? So that's straight. You can't argue with the laser. There's no mirrors, there's no curvature of the earth, there's no, if you believe in that kind of crazy nonsense that the earth is curved. It's straight. The line is straight, and there's no offset in the pins, right? So the pins aren't like, I don't have one here and then one here like that. They're not like that. They are running up the stairs. They're perfectly straight. I do believe that part of the problem is that my drilling guide somewhat failed me slightly. don't actually have one in here. But it doesn't matter. I do believe that there's a possibility that my drilling guide failed me, and that when I drilled the holes in, okay, so we're just going to use this piece of box here as an example, that when I drilled the holes in, so this is the staircase, I drilled the hole, I have a feeling, well, I don't have a feeling, you can see it, that, so it's straight this way, but when you turn it this way, it's not straight. So even though I had thought I had drilled the hole straight, not really straight. So we have a major problem. Now, in theory, that's why I bought these posts, because I know that I can't drill anything straight. So the reason I bought these, the reason that I bought these posts is to correct for that problem, right? So, and I mentioned it in one of the other videos that these will, you can use them on a uneven surface, right? That's what these are for. So you can rotate these, and we're going to get a visual aid out here because every problem now has a 3D printing solution. We're going to get a visual aid out. Okay, so this is a representation of the post. I kind of screwed up a little bit, but bear with me. So there's a couple problems with these bases. The first problem is they have a weep hole in them, right? So to allow moisture to escape. But the irony is the weep hole does not line up, but they have another hole in here, right? So these are all marked with degrees, and you need to clock them properly, right? Well, this has a little window in it to show you where it is, okay? And then you put a little witness mark on the outside. So that lines up perfectly. Well, why not just have the weep hole there? So the weep hole isn't even 180 off of this. So if the weep hole was directly opposite of the window to show you where you were at, well, then that would be a fantastic thing. It doesn't do that. It's offset. Why is it offset? I would love an answer for that. And if it's because of engineering purposes, well, then you should have just made the weep hole the index point. That needs to go back to redesign, boys, because that is absolutely asinine. So now we're going to line this up on this line here. Now this goes in here like this, shwink, just like that, and they lock in, they index in. So this is another one of the, this goes back to every problem now has a 3D printing solution, right? So after 5 iterations of these, I was finally able to get this right. So my first iteration here, this was my first iteration, was to map the inside of the pipe. So that's what the inside of the extrusion looks like. Okay, so this is what the inside of the extrusion looks like. That's what my 3D model looks like. Now, I knew going into this that there's a draft on these. That's how these work. What I didn't take into consideration is not only is there a draft, but there's a bump out on here. Okay, I knew it was there, but I didn't think it was going to be as big of a deal as it turned out to be for the 3D modeling purposes. So I printed out my first 3D model and immediately came to realize that, well, I had a draft problem. I knew I had a draft problem. So I went back into the design program and I redesigned this one. Now this one has a nice little chamfer to it, right? So it slides down on top, but again, I have a draft problem. But what I didn't actually have a draft problem. What I had was this bump out problem. So I went back in again. This is all me just trying to cheat the system here, right? So I go back in again and I print this one. Now this one has the bump outs cut out in it. Okay, now we're back to a draft problem because I didn't take into consideration the draft on here. I didn't take into consideration, I made the hole bigger to accommodate for these cutouts, okay? But what I didn't do, because I'm still learning, right? You know, the whole idea of parametric modeling is to change everything all at once, and I haven't quite figured those formulas out yet. So I actually went down pretty far, but it still didn't go down far enough. And it's a pain in the ass to get it off now. Well, it's a good thing I have another one. Okay, so then I went back in and I remodeled the inside. This is actually, yeah. So I remodeled the inside and I added draft to these. But what I ended up doing was the draft went both directions and ended up cutting these off. These were just like a floating structure on the inside. I didn't realize that. I went to take the support material out and they broke. But it still left the indexing marks on the inside. Well, now the other thing I did, which is completely and totally fucking asinine, because why wouldn't it be, right? So yeah, my screw up here, well, we don't need this one. That was trash. So my screw up was, and I didn't take this into consideration when I was modeling it, is the nut on the top. So if you look at this one, it's closed. Now it fits 100% perfectly. And as a matter of fact, if you look down in there, it even goes into the hole, right? So this is locked in as locked in can be. But I didn't take into consideration, or I wasn't thinking at the time, that when you go to put the bolt in, you go to put the stud in, it sticks out that far. Oops. All right, whatever. All right, that was a total screw up on my part. So we go back in, we remodel them. We have the index points in the top there. We have a through hole, bing, bang, boom. The stud fits up through the bottom. Huzzah, right? Second screw up, or next screw up. I forgot to take into consideration I did take into consideration some of the slop in this. I tried to make this as tight as I possibly could, but still be able to get the pin in or get this piece of conduit in and out. Man, I kind of screwed up a little bit because it's just wobbly enough that it's no good. Back to the drawing board, kids. So, what did I do then? The next iteration. I made a collar, and which we're printing right now, to go over this. I'm not reprinting this whole thing. So I went back into Fusion, and I remodeled the top of this. Okay? So the way it's going to work now is that it's going to slide into there. It's going to extend this hole up another probably 2.5 inches. I hope. Well, it's going to extend them. Actually, what it's going to do is it's going to extend this another 1.5 inches, give or take a little bit, because when I set this down on top of this, the bolt, because this actually fits flush on the top here. So this here, inside here, this piece here, fits flush in on the top. And what ended up happening was it bumps it up a little bit too high. Okay, so it does it when it goes down. Now the nut's not on it; it's just the stud, right? So if you put this bolt in here, it really screws it up. But we're not tightening them down like that. Yeah. So basically, that's what I'm waiting to come out of the printer right now. But for demonstration purposes, this will work just fine. Let's get this thing out of the way. So now back to the clocking. So this piece here, you line this up with this. There's a little window in here to line that up. Now they show you using the weep hole, but the reality of it is you have to use this one. And then I marked it. Apparently I didn't mark this one well. Doesn't matter, I'm going to have to remark them all anyway. So now we're set at 0. We're set at 0. We're at a line, right? Put the pipe in the hole. Okay, let's put a little wrap of tape on this. That'll tighten it up enough so it doesn't wobble as much. Everything wobbles. everything wobbles, and this is really starting to wear me out. And the truth of the matter is, this is all theoretical at this point because I haven't actually. I did actually go up and put these in position, and I wasn't impressed. That's why we came back to the drawing board here. Back to send it back to engineering. So that now goes in here. Oh yeah, that fits nice and tight now. I just needed a little bit of tape on it to just give it a little bit of stability. So now we're not nearly as wobbly. We're a little wobbly, but not totally wobbly. Motherfucker. So I have this cool little bullet level here, which actually sticks to, it's designed to go on conduit, right? Because, hey, imagine this. These aluminum railings, my aluminum magnet doesn't work on the aluminum railings. Now, it's off, right? So a 1/16 of an inch here over the length of a 36-inch pipe turns into half an inch, and actually probably more than that, depending on what you have. So now I have to be able to I have to clock this thing, right? It actually shows you in the instructions how to do that. Okay, so now it's level this way, and then but if you rotate it, okay, it's still level. Good. That's the whole point of what I'm doing here, and that's the whole reason that the railing wasn't lining up and nothing was going in straight, because the railing itself, the balusters, the uppies, were not lined up, or they were not straight and plumb. They were plumb in one direction, but they were not plumb in the other direction. So they need to be perfect. There's absolutely, positively, they say in the instructions that you can do it with a level, but the truth of the matter is you can't do it with a level, because once you've put the bolt through the hole here, and we're going to use our bullet level to explain this. You put the bolt through the hole, right? You go to put a level on it. Oops. How am I supposed to put a level on that? I'm supposed to put a level on half of there? It doesn't work. Especially if you put it, well, with the nut on there, but it doesn't work to do it that way. You can, but that is like the shittiest, terrible, that is the most terrible way to level something, because really it's like that. You can't get it to level that way. There's no way to get a level to stay on there. And I'm using a little shitty bullet level, right? Well, it's actually not a shitty bullet level. This is a pretty decent bullet level. I know it doesn't look it, but it is. But see how it falls off? You can't, there's no way to level these. Absolutely no way to level them. And if you try to do it this way, it's the same way. There's no, because of these bump outs, right? You cannot level these. It's impossible to level them. I want to see somebody level them in the real world, not working off of a pre-made 2 foot by 2 foot, perfectly level, perfectly smooth piece of concrete that you made in a laboratory to test to see if it worked. No, I want it done. I want to see it done in the real world. You know, where Pedro and Hector went out and smoked a fucking joint at lunchtime and came back and finished the concrete and it's all fucking crooked. Or they laid when they did the forms are pitched anyway. I shouldn't even be disparaging to Pedro and Paco, because when you're setting the forms, you need to have a pitch to everything to keep the water from rolling off of it. And that's what these are for. That's why they have all these little dots in here, right? But there's seemingly no good way that I can see or read from the instructions to straighten that out. The other problem is, and it goes back to the pins not being straight in the hole, right? When you go to tighten these and this pin is not straight, what it does is it cocks. Okay, it'll cock, and I'm going to show that when I go back up to the if your pins aren't perfectly straight. So what am I doing? Well, I'm going to hog these holes out, I think. These holes in this are going to get machined out. by probably a good bit. I think my biggest drill bit in-house here is 3/4 of an inch, but I might have an 11. I know I have an 11/16 drill bit that I'm going to run through these things and make the holes bigger. The base is, yeah, the base. This base I'm not worried about, but this, again, over the length. This is geometry, right? Over the length of this thing, there's just no room in it. What it does is it pulls it up off the concrete to make it go with the pin. It's my fault. It is absolutely my fault. But improvise, adapt, and overcome, and fix your fuck up. I'm not blaming the railing company. Engineers have a tendency to work in a void of reality. And like I said, that's like the whole thing with the parts not being marked. You know, there's absolutely, I don't have them in here, but there's absolutely no markings on any of these parts to indicate what the part number is. That's absurd. That's asinine. Even if, you know, ideally the part number would be cast into the part, or laser etched or something in the part itself to tell you exactly what the part is. They don't do that, and they don't even have the common courtesy to put a sticker on the bag. The other thing is, and I stopped before I got to it, was I had to make a tool. Oh, the other part of the video here is going to show how I got these off. I had to make a tool to go down inside of this pipe. Shit. To knock that out of there. Because this had to come back apart again. This goes. I mentioned early in the video that once you put this thing together, it is not ever intended to be taken apart and serviced. At least at this level, right? So if you set a post and it's not right, which how can you set a post right when you can't put a fucking level on this? I'm gonna take the camera up, and I'm actually gonna take a couple seconds to set up a video to show how, even using a bullet level, a small bullet level, you cannot, it does not, you can do it this way, right? But where's the pin is in here. It's absurd. It's utterly absurd and infuriating. It looks like somebody wants the pool opened. Hello, ladies. You gonna give us a show again? Daisy and Daffy. Even though they're both girls. So, yeah, this didn't actually work out exactly the way I planned it to, but it actually didn't work out bad. So, line these up. Because this is a horizontal surface, right? These go down like this, okay? And that's your thing, right? So the way this is supposed to work, and what I think is kind of absurd, is you're supposed to be able to put a level on these, right? And determine whether or not they're level, which they're not, on this, right? Well, not for nothing, once you drill the hole, you can't put a level on it anymore. Yeah, I defy you to get a level to stay on this thing. Okay, fire at me. But it's still not level because it's not catching enough of the top of the surface to be level. So, the other interesting thing here is this pin in particular is crooked. It's going this way, a good bit actually. So my game plan here was originally just to use this, right? Stick this over here. We all saw how I modeled that. And then stick a piece of conduit in on top of it. But it's floppy, like my dick. So I printed this I printed this collar out, which I showed earlier. That slides on there, that slides on there, and then you put the conduit in there, right? Well, we still have the same problem. It's just a little too floppy, like the dick. So, it occurred to me that really all I need, if to use their directions, or in using their directions, it really just occurred to me that all I need to do is put the level on top of it. So at 0, you should be able to rotate this thing until it levels out, which it's not going to do, because this pin is really out of whack. So this one, I think I'm going to have to, I'm either going to have to hog the hole out, check it for 0, or give it a little bit of a twist to align, to change the pitch a little bit. I'm doing a voiceover here, so if you look real carefully at the bottom and you see me rotating the base, if you look real carefully, you can actually see that the top of the base is walking up the threads, because that particular pin is really crooked. So that was a problem right away, and that's why I couldn't get it to level. Okay, after some thinkings and some brain rattling and some head scratching, I think I came up with a solution to fix this problem. So this pin was way crooked. Now what I did was I went and grabbed my old conduit bender there, and I bent the bolt. I think I mean, it's obviously it's still way bowed, but it's going straight down the hole. The other thing I did was I hogged out this hole to 3/4 of an inch. That might burn me in the end, but they're a lot closer to it being straight. So these don't work the way I thought they did. I thought these things were supposed to work like a shim, right? They don't work like a shim. Yeah, they don't work that way. So put that back on there like that, and then put your level back on there, and I'm pretty dead level this way. Now I'm still a little off this way, but not by much. The word of the day is there for or the phrase of the day is, there for the grace of God go I. But I did get it to tighten up, or I did get it to go straight. I was going to try to heat it, and the irony is I have 1,000 ways to create massive amounts of heat, but I don't have any good way to get it over here. Now I could have, that's fucking me. Yeah, that's really fucking me. Now I could have drug my torches over here. You know, I could have drugged the bottles out and my little torch. I brought a map torch. I bought my map torch over. We're gonna hope that that kind of works. I should have modeled the bolt head. I didn't think that far ahead. I didn't think that far ahead, because it was, yeah, because that was not supposed, yeah, I didn't think that far ahead. I hope this one works, because this is all wonky. We'll see. Now to do the last one, I might, well, you know what, I'm just going to drive this one in and see what the hell happens, right? This whole project sucks anyway. Let's just make it suck more. If it's wrong, I can get it out, I hope. Well, it's home. Home again, home again. Well, shockingly, it's pretty close to level. And so's that one. Well, it's a little wonky, but it's one in the middle, right? Now I'm going to do this one down here. So, doink. So this was a good idea. It just didn't work. It doesn't mean it's not a bad idea. Just because the idea doesn't work doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It just means it didn't work. So, put this back on here. These are pretty straight and pretty, these came out pretty decent. Stringing here, no support. I'm going to check to make sure these are still set at 0. Alright, that's set at 0. Okay, set at 0. That's flat. Now they tell you to rotate it until it levels. Alright, so we're level. Almost. So this is an uneven surface, which is not helping. That's it. Beat your levels, kids. They like it when you do that. I may have to hog this one out too. So what was happening is, as I rotate it on the piece, what it's doing is it's lifting up because the pin is crooked. The other thing I could do is just try to straighten the pin a little bit. Even though this one's pretty straight. Okay, no it's not. That one's off by about 1/8. Alright, let's see if I can snap this one off. So the way I did this the last time, I stuck this EMT tubing bender in here, because this is what it's kind of made for, right? And I just gave it a little bit of a whack. And it's a lot closer. It was about 1/8 or 1/4 off a second ago. Now it's still crooked. Now, actually, that's actually pretty good. They actually tell you don't need washers, but so actually, let's see here. One of the things I was able to pull out of my ass, because I'm a tool hoarding asshole, is to get these unbolted from the the last time. What I ended up doing here was taping these two long ass extensions, right? And then I stopped the Matco tool truck at Home Depot, and I grabbed this 15/16 deep well 3/8 drive socket. And hopefully this won't make a total asshole out of me, but this fits down on the inside here by the hair of its chinny chin chin and locks in. So you can get these out of here if you have to, but if you're not a tool junkie, you're not going to have these parts or these tools. It just so happens I'm a tool junkie. All right, so set this post in here, check it for level. And then we're going to try to put the railing together again. I'm going to do that off camera, I think, because I'm going to try to get some help from management, who is none too cool with video cameras, or my endless levels of narcissism. Ow, man. Must be the first nice day of the year. There's all the sport bike guys are zipping down the 476. I was one of them, I know. All right, I've been fighting with this thing for like 4 hours again. I finally had to get some help from the management around here. So let me show you exactly what's going on here and what has got me so pissed off and infuriated. Hopefully it'll show up on camera. So this gap here is completely unacceptable. Okay, and I might put some pictures in to show what the other gap looks like. So that gap there, this gap here, see? And then this is hilarious. Yeah, that's hilarious. The way these aren't lining up either. Now, this actually didn't turn out too bad. But yeah, you can really see it from this angle. Now, again, like I said, laser. All those pins are perfectly straight going up the thing. I went back and I straightened the pin, the anchors, so they're plumb and level, and then I put the post in plumb and level, and they still don't line up. So that's where I'm at with frustration here. Day on to part 4, or wait, this is part 4. On to part 5. Emailing the company and complaining that nothing fits right. Okay, so quick morning update. First of all, I'm to show off my low voltage lighting project. Came out perfectly. There's another light over here in the corner, but you don't need to see that one because that wasn't part of the low voltage lighting. I did put in 2 more lights. I think that's going to be about it for the low voltage lighting on this side. It just is what it is. I'm going to grab the camera here and just do a quick because I know it's not showing up. Here's the light here. And then that light over there. So they all go, they run around here and go there. Now for the next update. So I reached out to Promenaid, my railing manufacturer. I actually took a bunch of pictures and sent them into Promenaid with an explanation of what was going on. And they're going to send me some more of these fittings. at multiple different angles. Basically, they're sending me all new fittings, and they acknowledged that the the drawings don't match the steps. Basically, is what they kind of figure. Small variations in the actual installation versus working out on paper, and that's been um, my whole deal from the beginning. So railing project is on hold. Whatever you do, don't grab the railing. It's a little. So Promenaid came through. I expected them to. Really good company. They can't control my site. If I was a professional installer of Promenaid railings, I would have a truck full of these fittings, and that's the way that would get done. But I'm not a professional installer. I'm just a homeowner. So here we are. I do still have one. Actually, I think it's going to be. It might be this one. One of these is going to have to get moved. Um, I think. I'm not sure. I still have to work that out. Uh, Best or slash worst case scenario is I may have to print a shim for one of these um, bollard posts. Um, yeah, so we'll go from there. Now, on to the next stupid project. Why is that doing that?
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Yeah, shut off. Close.
To close an app.
No, I want you to close.
To the middle of the screen.
What the fuck, man? Can't even get my phone to work right.